What I want to show you is this design here, which is my design 7. So this is a really simple, let's say, variation on our existing template. Okay, we haven't got to add very much, just this little band here and these two interesting elements here. This is more of like a, let's say, stocking suspender belt kind of concept, although it is all a leggings block. We just have different paneling here to indicate these lines. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we do it on this block. So in my design details layer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little square and I'm going to show you a concept. So if I draw a block like this, for example, okay, you can see this is a block. If I get a line and I draw it through the center, where's my line tool? There we go. Just click and hold. So selection tool, just click and hold line segment tool, or you can find it here, for example, where is it? Line segment tool. Voila, you can place it there as well. Go to my line selection tool, I'm going to click and drag a line that intersects or lays over the top of this box. As you can see, it goes outside of the constraints of this box. I'm then going to go to my, let's say, stroke tool. I'm going to make this 0.2. So very, very small indeed. You can barely almost see it. Okay, which is great. I'm going to click this line, so big selection tool. I'm going to click on this line. I'm going to go Object. I'm going to go Expand and click OK. And this is now an object. And by that, let's have a look. We're going to zoom in really far in for this. So there you go. You can see it's an object. It's no longer a line, it's an object. And this is really important because I want to, let's say, cut this into two sections, this being one and this being the other. So here's my line, and I also want to make sure Object, Arrange. I'm going to bring this to the very front. The thing you're going to cut with always has to be on top of the thing you're going to cut. Almost like a cookie cutter, if that makes sense. I'm going to get my big selection tool. I'm going to click and drag over both of them. I'm going to go, where is it? My Pathfinder tool, which is here. You can also find it Windows and then go, where is it? Pathfinder. And it will appear here. And you get a few options. I'm going to click on the minus front. So we're removing the front from this object. We're removing this line from this object. So if I click this one here, as you can see, we now have two separate objects. We have the top one and we have the bottom one. And we can essentially, I mean they are grouped, so we want to go Object and then Ungroup. We can basically move this away from it. So it's a very easy way of cutting something into two pieces. Okay? So we're going to use this technique when it comes to creating paneling on this template. So once again, we're going to create these little areas here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my square tool. Let's just make sure it's got a line and not a fill. So you can swap these over. This is a fill, and then that is a line, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my square tool. I'm going to make sure it has a line thickness, and let's make the thickness about 0.3 for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just simply click and drag across here. I'm just going to do one side to begin with. I'm going to get my small selection tool, and I'm going to click and take this down to about here. So let's have a look. There we go. It comes from this point all the way over to about that point there. So let's just go slightly higher up. And as long as it's outside, that we are over intersecting it. And then what I want to do next is I want to actually shape this line. Because as you can see, this has got a nice, smooth, sort of like line shaping. So let's do that. Let's go to our anchor point tool. I'm just going to click and drag that top edge until we have something that matches, let's say, our illustration. Do exactly the same with the bottom line. I'm just going to click and drag. Let's maybe do it out. These ones don't necessarily matter. We can just do anything with those, pull those back in. So now we have something that resembles this, which is looking great. Next, what I want to do is I'm going to select this item with my big selection tool, click it. I'm going to transform, I'm going to reflect it, and hit copy. And I'm going to move that across to the opposite side and try and place it in roughly the same position or area, which is looking good. Okay, so we've now created the basic shape, which is this large box here and here. Next, what we want to do is we want to basically minus this from this outline, but at the moment this outline is on the outline layer. So let's just unlock the outline layer. Let's select this item. Let's then copy it, lock that layer, go back to the design layer, and then let's just paste it onto our design layer. Also, I don't really want this information. Let's take it over to the side here. I don't really want the extra information. I just want the outline. So I'm going to get my small selection tool. I'm just going to click, delete, hit delete a few times, click, delete. And then with my big selection tool, I'm going to click it and drag it over so it just overlays that outline layer. And I want to make sure that this panel and this panel, so just big selection tool, click on this, big selection tool, hold down the shift key, click on this. I then want to go to object and then arrange, bring to front. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these boxes, so big selection tool, click on this box, then hold down the shift key and click on, let's say, my outline layer, and then I'm going to go to my pathfinder and I'm going to go minus from front. And as you can see, that original little box has gone, and now we have this section and we have this section. Okay, so that's really helpful. I'm going to do exactly the same on the opposite side. So first of all, let's just click on this outline again. Let's just go object, ungroup it. I'm going to get this panel. I'm going to go object, arrange, bring to front. I'm then going to select this one, hold down the shift key and select the outline layer, and then minus again. So now as you can see, let's just object, ungroup that. As you can see, we have this top panel and we have these two leg panels, which is really handy. Okay, so we've already started creating this shape. Okay, so next what we want to do is we want to turn this into the stiletto. Sorry, this we want to add this little section here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get my square tool and I'm just going to draw a little suspender line, just like that. And I'm just going to, let's copy this, and then let's edit and let's paste again. And let's place it about there, so about the center of the thigh. You can also move this if you need to, and you can even rotate it if you want to be a little bit snazzy. There you go, to follow the line of the leg. Great, so next what we want to do is I'm going to use the Pathfinder tool, but this time I'm going to add to. So I'm going to get my big selection tool, I'm going to click on this green or this upper panel. I'm going to hold down the shift key, click on this panel, this one, and these two leg panels, and I'm going to use the other one, which is basically merge or unite. I'm going to click that, and then there we go. We now have this shape, which is looking fantastic. Okay, and what we'll do is let's just take this down to be about 0.5. We said for seams. Okay, 0.5. There we go. So now we have this lovely shape on the front. I'm going to do exactly the same on the back. So once again, let's get a square. Let's mark it here. I'm going to do this quite quickly. Let's also create a new one on this side as well. In fact, you know what? No, let's just do it on this side first. Let's get my small selection tool. I'm going to click and drag up into that crotch there. Let's move this up ever so slightly. And let's move this down to about here. I'm going to get my anchor point tool. Click and drag to create that nice curve on the bum. I'm going to do the same with this as well. Click and drag to create that nice line down here. And these ones, we can just pull this back in again. We don't need those ones. And let's have a look. Perfect. What I'm doing is I'm going to select this. I'm then going to right click, transform, reflect, and then hit vertical copy. Move it across the opposite side and try and create a similar shape on the opposite side. This could actually do with being moved up. So small selection tool, click on that point, nudge it up my arrow key. This one we can nudge that up ever so slightly. We can maybe change this line as well. And so now we have our two panels. But also we want to go to our outline layer. Let's unlock that. Let's grab that outline. Let's copy it. Let's lock that down. Go to our design layer, paste it in, place it over the top of our existing outline layer. I'm then going to take these two panels, so big selection tool, hold down the shift key and click on them to queue up the selections. Object, arrange, always remember it must always be on top. I'm just going to select this one, hold down the shift key with my big selection tool, click on the outline layer, go to Pathfinder, and then we're going to minus front. So we've done this side, which is great. We want to then select this with our big selection tool, go object, and then go ungroup. We then want to take this panel here, object, arrange, bring to front, just to make sure it's on top, and then click, hold down the shift key, click, and then we're going to minus. And there we have the top and the bottom. Object, let's just ungroup those. So that's the top, and these are the bottom ones. I'm going to hit Control Z just to go back. Okay, so now let's draw in those little stiletto lines. Not stiletto, sorry, I mean, what are they called? Suspender lines. So I'm going to draw a little square, a little rectangle by clicking and dragging, doing it roughly the same size. I'm using this as a guide because I want it to be similar for my back. I'm just going to take this, drag it over to the opposite side. Let's copy and paste another one in. drag it to this side, and we can also just rotate it ever so slightly. Click it, rotate. Great. And now what we can do is we can select this one, hold down the Shift key, select this, 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 and this, and we can then go Unite. And there is our, let's say, back. And what I can do is let's go and make sure that that is 0.5 when it comes to stroke width. And there we have the line art for essentially what is this design here, which is looking fab. Also, you know what? We probably don't need these bum lines on here because it's already being defined. So what we'll do is let's go to the layer, let's go to the outline layer, let's unlock it, and let's get our small selection tool. So we just pick up that red line there. Oop, let's lock down the design layer. Pick up that line, let's hit backspace a few times. Great. And let's go back to the design layer, zoom in, and actually what we'll do is let's just pick that up a bit. I'm going to select that little point there and nudge it up, so it's a bit more bum shaped, if that makes sense. And you know what, this is actually interfering as well, this one here. So let's go to the outline layer, let's lock the design layer. Let's just remove that, and we can also, let's keep that one, it's quite fun there. Okay, so great, so now we've created what is essentially the line art for this, let's say, design. But how do we actually fill it with colour? Well, that's a really interesting point. So first of all, we have our design layer, which is great. We need to create a new layer, lots and lots of layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, create a new layer, and I'm going to call this the body colour layer. Okay, create as many layers you want, call them whatever you want. Let's call that the body color layer, and I'm also going to get the outer layer and move this to the very top. I'm going to put the body color at the bottom and the design layer in between those two. So on my outline layer, I'm going to select, with my big selection tool, I'm going to select the outline. I'm also going to select the front outline, and I'm going to copy, so just edit, copy, and then, where is it? Let's go to our body color layer, and then let's paste that in. Oops. Let's lock that layer, let's select the body color layer, and let's paste it in. You can see that it's got a blue line to it, just to denote that it's on the blue layer or on the body color layer here, you see, there you go. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to give this a I'm not going to give this a line color at all. I'm not going to give this a line weight at all. Okay, it's going to have 0 line weight. You can even click on this section here, and just then click that to remove it. Okay, so there is nothing there. You see? Nothing. But we can fill this. And so I can click on the fill. So if I go over to this little section here, so with these two selected, hold down the Shift key, select the other one, I can then go to the fill, and I can give it, let's give it a fill of grey for now. Okay? So it now has a grey fill colour. And if you want, we can get rid of all of these other layers by, just simply removing those eyes. Let's select all of this, and as you can see, we've got these little elements as well, which is slightly annoying. So let's just get the small selection tool, and let's just get rid of that. There's one here. Get rid of these bits, so we don't really want them. And this one hasn't got any. So now we just have the outlines. Then let's just add in the other layers. Okay, so now we have a body color layer, and then we have this design detail layer, which is this area here. So I can fill this maybe with a different color. I can maybe make that like a darker charcoal. There we go. Does that make sense? Let me do that again. So, just to reiterate, I'm going to take these back to white. We have a few layers here. We have the outline layer, which is all of our details and our seams and like that big, thick, chunky, let's say, outline, which gives us a bit more depth and 3-dimension. We then have our design detail layer, which are these two little elements, which are very cute. And then we have our body color layer, okay, which has a fill. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a different color for the design layer and a different color for the body layer. So the body layer, I'm going to click, and I'm going to click, and then I'm going to give it a fill, which is maybe like a dark grey. Click OK. And then with the design layer, I'm going to simply click, click, and then give this a light grey. Click OK. And that is how we basically define or create this concept. And we can then add it with texture and color and whatever else. So next thing I'm going to do, on my design layer here, I'm going to add this little waistband. Okay, just here. And to do that, it's going to be really simple. I'm just going to get my pen tool, and I'm just going to click here, here, here. Let's go a little bit higher up. Let's click here, here, and here. And then with my what's this called? This is the anchor point tool. I'm just going to click and drag until we get a little bit of shaping, just to mimic the edge. Okay, so that's my first one. We can bring this in a little bit because she's got quite an exceptionally tiny waist there. And what we do is we can then just put this up to be 1 point to match our body color layer. However, there's one thing. So basically, this is a very thick line, and we kind of want that to be a seam line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge these two layers together. I'm going to get my, on the design details layer, I'm going to get my body here, and I'm going to select this little panel as well. So I'm going to big selection tool, click on this, hold down the shift key, click on this section here. I'm then going to go to Pathfinder, and I'm going to unite. Did that work? It did not work. And the reason why is because these two need to be overlapping for it to work. So let's try that again. Let's click on this layer. Let's click on this layer, and then let's unite them. And there we have these two united in one piece. But unfortunately, our outline layer is causing that block. So what we want to do is, let's go to our outline layer. We can add a point here, add a point here, move this up, move this up, move this up as well, and then we can just pull that line in, pull that line in. Let's just neaten that up a little bit so it mimics the line underneath. There we go. And then on our design layer, so let's lock these. On our design layer, I can get my point, click, 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 drawing that curve, and then we can make this 0.5. And there we have a better seamed line, if that makes sense. We can move it up a little bit as well. So let's just do that again, but on the back. So let's just do it a different way. I'm going to lock down my design layer. I'm going to go to my outline layer here. I'm going to click on this panel. I'm going to add a point here and a point here. I'm going to move this point up. I'm going to move this point up to about there. I'm then going to move this little handle in to create a straight edge. I'm going to move this up. And then let's just get our anchor point tool. Click, and then drag out. We can move that as well. That's looking great. Let's go back to our design layer. As you can see, we've got it. That's great. And what we'll do is I'm going to do the same thing again. Click, click, move this up, pull this in, move this up, and then on that same layer, I'm just going to draw a point from here to here, place one there, and then move that out. And there we have, let's just move that in slightly. There we have the waistband, which is looking fabulous. Okay, so next what we want to do is, we've got this really cute like little fill here. As you can see, it's got this like little circular fill, which is really fun. So we're going to add this as well. Now that is essentially my power mesh. So I'm basically symbolizing that as a power mesh layer because it has lots of little tiny holes in it, and so it creates the effect of a power mesh layer. So to add these, what I'm going to do is, first of all, let's turn that into 0.5 because it seems. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to essentially trace these to add new panels. Anything that you want to add to this pattern or to this design and you want to fill it with something, you need to basically add that, you need to add panels. But you know what, we can do it a different way. Sorry, I'm losing track a little bit here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create that fill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my circle tool because as you can see, it's lots of tiny little holes. Oops. I'm going to create a tiny little circle. Let's just zoom in on that. So I'm just going to get to my circle tool. I'm going to click and drag, and holding down the shift key will make sure it is always the same size, or it's constrained, it's to scale, whereas you can create something really quite odd. And let's just make it a little bit smaller, about that big. Okay, that's great. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a fill of nothing. I'm going to remove the fill. The line or the thickness is absolutely fine, or the stroke color is fine being black. And then let's go to the line width, and let's make this 0.3, for example, so it's really tiny. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a swatch. So I'm going to select this little item here. I'm going to hold down the Alt key, or the Option key, and this will give me. So if I click on it with the big selection tool, if I click on it and I hold down the Option key and I drag it off to the left, I can also hold down the Shift key to make sure it's locked to that horizontal layer, or that horizontal axis, I can just click and drag it, and it'll appear. And if I hold down, if I do Command D, it'll repeat the exact move that you've just done over and over again. So to do that again, I get my circle tool, I click and drag a circle, and I'm holding down my shift key to constrain the proportions of it to make sure it's the same both vertically and horizontally. I'm going to make sure the line is black, it has no fill whatsoever, and I'm going to make sure the line thickness is 0.3, so it's quite fine. I'm then going to get my big section tool, I'm going to click on it, then I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key on my keyboard, I'm going to click and drag it off to the right hand side, hold down the Shift key while I'm doing it, so it locks to the horizontal axis, and then I'm just going to release my mouse key. And then, if you hit, with it still selected, if you hit Command D, 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 it will duplicate it for you. Next, I'm going to get my big selection tool here, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag down, holding my Option key to duplicate it, and I'm just going to release. And that gives me like a little, let's say, pattern that I can duplicate. So next I'm going to select all of it, so big selection key, going to click and drag over all of it, and I'm going to drag it down, and there we go. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to put this into our swatches palette, which is over here, swatches. You can even go to Window, and then where is it? Swatches down the bottom there. I'm just going to click, select all of this, I'm going to click and drag it into my swatches. And then let's create a little square and see if it worked. It's been a while since I've done this, so fingers crossed. There you go, boom, done. Okay, so what we're doing is we're simply taking this repeating pattern, and it's repeating because essentially, look, if you do that, it repeats. We're taking this little pattern here, I'm simply clicking and dragging it into my swatches palette, this blue area over here, and then what it does is it creates this little swatch panel. See, new pattern swatch 1. So now, what I can do is, I can go to my layers, let's go to our body color, and let's click on that outline, let's click on this one as well, and then let's go to my swatches, and let's click on this. And you can see it's basically filled that entire panel with that swatch. So if I were to get rid of my design layer, you can see that that's the entire thing. Okay, so let's just get rid of that. So that's looking good. However, it's white. What if I want it to be a lighter color or a dark grey or a pink or a blue, whatever? What we can do is we can go to the body color layer. Let's just lock these. I can take these two panels, I can copy and paste them in, put it back into the position they were in originally, but this time instead of filling it with that swatch, I can fill it with pink, for example. Now at the moment it's slightly higher up than the, let's say, the Power Mesh swatch, so what I'm going to do is go Object, Arrange, and then Send Backward. And then we can do it again, Object, Arrange, Send Backward. And as you can see, we have that little layer below it, which is really handy. So now we can change that color to be anything we want. We can make it dark grey, and for example the design layer, we can change this and we can make this an even darker grey. So this is how we're now starting to design our blocks. Ooh, hang on, that little bit there has got a fill. So if you see anything like this happening, just go to your small selection tool, click on that line and make sure there's no fill on it. Okay, so that's essentially how we create that's how we create that design, for example. Now I'm going to go through these and do a few more of them. So we've got a few more designs like this and show you how I actually created it. I'm going to use a different technique from the version we did here, which is basically using the Pathfinder tool. I'm actually going to start building panels on top of this just by drafting them. So let's have a look at that one.